The most terrifying thing is not to be hated, but to be ignored. Friedrich Nietzsche. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. You can feel it, even if you can't explain it. Not with your mind. Your body knows first. There's a tension in the air. She's still there, physically present, going through the motions. But something in her has already started to leave. Her eyes don't land on you the same way. Her voice sounds the same, but it doesn't reach you anymore. And you start trying harder. You talk softer. You offer more help. Maybe you even back off to give her space. But nothing changes. Nothing works. The distance grows, and you're stuck watching it happen like you're behind glass. And the worst part is, you don't know what exactly you did wrong. So you start replaying moments in your head, trying to find the moment it cracked. Was it something you said? Something you didn't say? A missed signal? But deep down, you know it's not about one mistake. It's not about forgetting a date or saying the wrong thing. It's something else, something harder to see, something that's been building for a while, under the surface, a slow erosion. It's the feeling of being next to someone whose soul is already gone. She's still talking to you, still sharing space with you, but the thread between you is thinner. And when you try to pull it back, with kindness, with effort, with trying to be better, it only slips further away. You feel powerless, like you're trying to hold water with your hands, and it keeps running through. There's a kind of silent panic in that, a slow-motion heartbreak. People love giving advice. Just communicate more. Take her on a date. Try couples therapy, as if love was some machine that stopped working because you didn't press the right button, as if you lost her because you forgot the rules. But this isn't about rules. This isn't about effort. You're not here because you didn't try hard enough. You did. That's the part that really hurts. You did everything you were told to do, and it still broke. Here's what most people won't tell you. Sometimes a woman stops wanting to be with you, not because you failed, but because you vanished. Not physically, not emotionally in the obvious ways, but energetically. You started living from a place that wasn't fully you. You became the provider, the problem solver, the steady one. You pushed your own pain to the side, thinking that's what strength means. You kept things running. You stayed fine. And in doing that, you stopped being fully present. You became a role. And here's the truth no one says. When a man stops feeling himself, a woman feels that too. She might not say it, she might not even realize it, but her nervous system does. She starts to feel alone in the room with you, because you're not really there, not in the way that matters. You're operating, you're functioning, but your essence, your presence, that part got buried. That pain you've been carrying, that quiet frustration in your chest, that low-grade anger that you try to manage alone, it doesn't disappear just because you don't talk about it. It leaks out. It changes how you breathe, how you look, how you hold her, and she senses it. Even if she can't name it, she knows. Something in you has gone missing. And so she starts pulling back too. If you're still here, if you haven't clicked away or numbed out, then maybe some part of you is done running. Maybe some part of you is tired of being a ghost in your own life. If that's true, stay with this. Not because it's easy, not because I have some magic answer, but because by the end of this, something in you might finally understand that your pain isn't your enemy. It's the doorway back to presence. You were taught that love is something you earn, that if you behave right, perform well, stay calm, stay useful, you'll be loved. And that belief runs so deep, you don't even see it anymore. It's in the way you apologize for your needs. It's in how quickly you abandon your truth to keep the peace. Somewhere along the line, you started believing that your value depends on how well you meet expectations. So when a woman begins to withdraw, your instinct is to fix, to adjust, to become what she wants. But here's the paradox. The more you do that, the more she loses interest. Because what she actually wants isn't a perfectly adapted version of you. She wants the real you. And when that part is buried under performance, she starts to feel alone again. Most men don't realize how deeply they've been conditioned to disconnect from themselves. From a young age, you were told not to cry, not to feel, not to show weakness. You were trained to suppress. And now, in your adult relationships, those same patterns play out. You show up, you stay steady, you don't complain. But beneath that surface, there's often a mountain of unspoken frustration, grief, fear, and that unspoken energy becomes a wall, not just between you and her, but between you and yourself. You might have read books, watched videos, even gone to therapy. You've probably tried to be more attentive, more giving, more emotionally available. But if you're honest, none of it really shifted the core. Because techniques don't fix disconnection. Scripts don't restore presence. You can learn all the right things to say, but if you're not truly home inside yourself, she'll feel that, and you will too. You'll feel it as emptiness, as that strange gap between effort and intimacy. You're doing all the things, but the closeness isn't there. And here's the cruel trick of modern advice. It keeps you stuck chasing strategies. You're told to communicate better, listen more, understand her love language, show appreciation. And those things aren't bad, but they become another mask, another performance. Because no one tells you that the core issue isn't how you show love, it's how you show up. Whether you're actually in your body when you touch her, whether your words are rooted in truth or in fear, whether you're speaking from a script or from your gut. When a man loses connection to himself, no amount of effort can cover that. She might appreciate the gestures. She might say, "Thank you," but she won't feel that deeper pull, because the real you is absent. And the more you try to win her back by doing, the more exhausted and resentful you become. You start to feel like nothing's ever enough. Like love is some test you keep failing. But maybe the real problem is that you've been answering the wrong question. Maybe it's not about being better for her. Maybe it's about being true with yourself. And I'll tell you something most psychologists won't. You can't reconnect with her until you reconnect with you. That might sound selfish. It's not. It's the foundation of presence. You don't have to become someone else. You have to come back to who you were before you started trying so hard to be loved. You don't need more techniques. You need to stop abandoning yourself. Because when a woman sees a man who's deeply grounded in his own truth, even if he's broken, even if he's raw, something in her relaxes. She might not say it. She might not even understand why. But she feels it. And the truth is, so do you. There comes a moment, and maybe you've already lived through it, when you realize the pain between you and her isn't about conflict. It's about absence. Not just hers, yours. You weren't yelling. You weren't unkind. You were just gone. Somewhere in the effort to be good, stable, safe, you stopped being real. You thought you were protecting her. You thought you were protecting the relationship. But what you were really doing was protecting yourself from being fully seen. And the more invisible you became to yourself, the more invisible you became to her. At some point, your connection stopped being alive. It became something to maintain, a routine, a shared life with no pulse underneath. You still showed up. You still did your part. But your presence, your raw, grounded, unfiltered presence, faded. That's the part she missed. Not the compliments, not the gestures, the presence. That unspoken, "I am here," that can only come from a man who's not hiding from himself. And maybe you felt it too. That dull ache in your chest, that quiet craving for something more, but not knowing what more even means anymore. So you tried harder. You tried to be more supportive, more patient, less reactive, but the more you adapted, the less real you felt. You started to disappear inside your own life. You smiled through it. You said you were fine, but part of you was already gone. If this hits something in you, stay with it. Because what's happening isn't failure. It's a wake-up call. It's your psyche telling you that the version of yourself you've been living, the one built to survive, to function, to keep the peace, is no longer enough. Not for her, and not for you. The pain you feel isn't a punishment. It's an invitation to return, not to who you were before her, but to the part of you that you abandoned long before she even showed up. Here's what most people never tell you. The moment she starts pulling away is rarely about something that just happened. It's about something she's been feeling for a long time and didn't know how to name. It builds slowly, in silence, in the space between words. Not in fights, not in drama, in the quiet, in those long moments when you were there, but not really there. When you smiled, but weren't alive behind it. When you touched her, but your hands carried no soul. Women feel energy long before they understand it logically. And when that energy is empty, something in them closes without explanation. And this is where most men get stuck. They try to bring her back with logic, with effort, with more of the same strategies that failed in the first place. You try to explain, you try to reason, you say all the right things, but none of it lands. Not because you're wrong, but because there's no resonance. She's not listening to your words anymore. She's feeling for your presence. And if you're still not in your body, still not in your truth, she'll keep drifting. There's something brutal about realizing that being a good man, by every social standard, still isn't enough. You did what they told you. You were respectful, supportive, dependable. But the fire went out. Not because you didn't try, but because you stopped being fully alive. And without realizing it, you became a version of yourself designed to avoid rejection, to be acceptable, to be chosen. And in that process, you forgot how to choose yourself. This is the fracture, not between you and her, but between you and your own essence. She didn't leave because she stopped loving you. She left because she stopped feeling you. And the reason she stopped feeling you is because you stopped feeling you. That's where the repair begins, not in fixing her feelings, not in proving your worth, but in coming back into contact with the parts of yourself you silenced to keep everything together. Most men think presence is about doing, about showing up, planning the date, solving the issue, keeping calm. But presence isn't a task. It's a state. It's what happens when you're no longer at war with yourself, when you're not pretending to be okay, when you're not trying to hide the tension in your chest or the storm in your gut. Presence is when you're fully in your body, fully in the moment, without managing or controlling. And the truth is, you can't fake that. You can say all the right things, but if you're disconnected inside, she'll feel that void. This is where so many relationships quietly die. Not because of betrayal or abuse, but because of subtle disconnection that builds over time. Because one or both people are no longer living from their truth. They're functioning, they're coexisting, but they're not meeting. And no amount of romantic gestures or good intentions can replace that. Women don't need perfection. They don't need answers, but they do need your real presence, not your performance, not your role, your real, grounded, raw self. But here's the part most don't want to face. To be present with her, you have to be present with yourself first. That means facing the parts of you you've ignored, the hurt, the shame, the fear of not being enough, the pieces you buried because you were told they're not masculine. You can't offer true connection if you've cut yourself off from your own emotional core. And that's the work no one can do for you. Not her, not a coach, not a therapist, just you, facing the mirror without flinching. The irony is, the moment you stop chasing her and start facing yourself, something shifts. You begin to remember who you are beneath all the noise. You stop grasping for her attention and start standing in your own ground. And that changes the dynamic. She may not even know why, but suddenly she starts to feel something again. Because you've returned, not as the version of you who tries to get it right, but as the one who's finally real. There's a kind of heartbreak that doesn't come from betrayal or conflict, but from slow disconnection, from waking up next to someone who no longer looks at you the same way, from realizing that your words don't reach her anymore, even when you say the right things. It's not loud, it's not dramatic, it's a quiet kind of dying. And for many men, this is the most confusing part, because on the surface, nothing is wrong, but underneath, everything is fading. She's not angry, she's just gone. And you feel that emptiness in places you can't even name. What no one tells you is that this kind of loss starts long before she actually leaves. It begins when she stops feeling safe in your energy. Not because you hurt her, but because you disappeared. You were there, but not fully. You were talking, but not from your gut. You were holding her, but your mind was somewhere else. Women are not looking for perfect men. They're looking for presence, for the kind of deep attention that only comes from a man who's not running from himself. When that presence disappears, so does her desire. Not because she stopped loving you, but because she no longer feels you. And when that happens, it hits a place in you that goes far beyond the relationship. It touches every wound you've carried since childhood. The part of you that learned to be useful, helpful, agreeable. Just to feel worthy of being loved. The boy who never wanted to be a burden. The man who got so good at adapting that he forgot how to be real. And so when a woman stops wanting to be close, it feels like proof that you're not enough. But the truth is, it's not about being enough. It's about being present, about being alive, about being in contact with your own soul again. No one teaches men how to do that. We're taught to build, to fix, to achieve. We're taught to provide, to perform, to keep things together. But no one teaches us how to feel, how to sit with pain without trying to solve it, how to grieve without making it a project, how to stay when everything in us wants to run. And that's the kind of strength that actually creates intimacy. Not the strength of control, but the strength of surrender, of staying with what's real, especially when it's uncomfortable. She didn't pull away because you weren't enough. She pulled away because you weren't there. And maybe that's harsh to hear, but it's not an attack, it's an opening. Because if your absence created the disconnection, then your presence can begin to rebuild the bridge, not through convincing her, not through proving anything, but by actually being here again, with yourself, in your body, in your breath, in your truth. When a woman feels a man who's rooted in his center, everything changes. Not because he says the right thing, but because he is the thing. His energy says, I'm not going anywhere, not from you and not from me. And that's what she's been searching for. Not more words, not more effort, just you, steady, clear, human, not perfect, present. The truth is, Healing this disconnection doesn't start with fixing the relationship. It starts with rebuilding the relationship with yourself. If you try to reach for her without first reaching inward, you'll keep repeating the same pattern, performing, adjusting, overgiving. And that only deepens the gap. What changes everything is when you stop trying to be enough for her and start being honest with yourself. That means facing your numbness, your fear of rejection, your grief that's been sitting under the surface for years. It means stopping the performance and letting yourself be seen, even if you're not proud of what's there. So what does that actually look like? First, get back in your body. Not in theory, in practice. Every day, take 10 or 15 minutes without distraction to sit, breathe, and feel. Not analyze, just notice. Notice where the tension lives. Notice what emotions you've been avoiding. Stay with them. Let them rise. This is how you begin to reclaim your own presence. A woman can only feel you if you're feeling yourself. It sounds simple, but it's not easy, because most men have been taught to live from the neck up, to think instead of feel. But intimacy doesn't happen in thoughts. It happens in the body, in the space where you stop managing and start being. Second, tell the truth, not the polished version, the real one. If there's grief, name it. If there's resentment, own it. If you've been scared, admit it. This doesn't mean dumping your emotions on her or making her responsible for them. It means being real. Realness doesn't push people away. It draws them in, but only if it comes from a grounded place. Not blame, not desperation, not manipulation. Just truth. And truth, when it's spoken from presence, has a power that no strategy can replicate. Third, stop trying to change her feelings. Let her have her distance, if that's where she is. Let her be angry, or quiet, or unsure. Your job is not to fix her. Your job is to stay present with your own experience while honoring hers. If she senses that you're trying to get her back, instead of actually facing yourself, she'll keep pulling away. But if she feels that you're genuinely rooted, that you're doing this for you, not just to win her, that's when trust starts to rebuild. Not because you asked for it, but because she feels something she hasn't felt in a long time: safety in your presence. Fourth, start asking deeper questions. Not about her, about you. Where did you learn to disappear? Whose love did you have to earn growing up? When did you first decide that being emotional made you weak? These aren't just intellectual reflections. They're doorways. Doorways into the shadow parts of you that you've been avoiding. And those parts, the ashamed one, the angry one, the grieving one, they're not your enemy. They're the keys. The more you integrate them, the more whole you become. And the more whole you are, the less you depend on her to complete you. And finally, commit to presence as a daily practice, not as a tactic. This isn't something you do for a week and expect miracles. This is a lifelong path. You're not becoming a better man to win someone back. You're becoming more of yourself because you're tired of being half alive. That shift in intention changes everything. It stops being about fixing and starts being about embodying, about becoming someone who is no longer afraid to feel, to speak, to stay. And maybe she'll come back, maybe she won't. But either way, you'll be home in yourself again. And that's the real point. That's the healing. That's the transformation. If you recognized yourself in these words, write in the comments, "I'm done running from pain." Let's see how many of us are ready for the truth. This is just the beginning. We're sure you've discovered plenty of value, so subscribe now and stay connected.